Hello everyone, welcome to EduHunt video lecture series. We have already discussed about reproduction in plants, how the process of reproduction occurs and what are the consequences of reproduction and how many types of reproductions are there and what type of plants reproduce through different modes of reproduction, that is asexual and sexual mode of reproductions. These all things we have done. And the next concept is reproduction in animals. As we have discussed in the very beginning lecture that every living organism shows growth, development, reproduction, metabolism and all the changes that is required for maintenance occur in the individuals. One of the changes is reproduction, that is in developmental stages the organism passes one stage after other. It moves from one phase to another. In plants we have seen two different phases. One is gametophytic phase, which is a haploid phase, and a sporophytic phase, which is a diploid one. That is about plants. Plants reproduce through asexual and sexual modes, whereas in animals both the asexual and sexual modes are there, but asexual mode of reproduction is seen in unicellular and lower organisms and organisms with simple body, simple development, but sexual reproduction is common in all animals. Whereas asexual reproduction results in the formation of progeny which resemble the parents, but the offspring that is produced after sexual reproduction are different. That means they show variations. Variation is nothing but difference. The daughters or the progeny that are resulted from the parent are different from each other and they are different from their parents. In asexual reproduction, only one parent involves. In sexual mode, two parents involve, male and female. Let's see what is the reproduction in animals. Yes, in animals also asexual mode of reproduction takes place. Mostly the asexual mode is fission. Fission is the most common type of asexual reproduction seen in unicellular as well as lower organisms. In this case, a single cell or a single individual breaks up into two. It divides into two. If we see a single cell dividing into two, it generates two cells. These two cells again undergo division and form four cells. That way they multiply. This kind of asexual reproduction called fission results in new progeny that are alike, that resemble with each other, and there is no parent. That means ఇప్పుడు ఒక సెల్ ఉందనుకోండి, imagine in case of binary fission, let's see binary fission. Binary fission లో there is a cell like this. There is a cell with nucleus. Now this cell undergoes division. First of all, the cell enlarges. This is the nucleus. Nucleus is sharing between the two daughter cells. See this picture. ఇక్కడ పేరెంట్ సెల్ ఉంది. లాస్ట్కి వచ్చినప్పుడు టూ డాటర్ సెల్సే ఉన్నాయి. ద పేరెంట్ సెల్ ఇస్ దేర్. ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ దేర్. ఓన్లీ ఇట్ డివైడ్స్ అండ్ గివింగ్ రైస్ టు ద న్యూ టూ daughter individuals. If it is a cell, the daughter cells. If it is an individual, daughter individuals. ఇది యాక్చువల్గా ఫిజన్లో జరిగేది. పేరెంట్ సెల్ ఆర్ పేరెంట్ అనేది ముక్కలు అయిపోయి రెండు ముక్కలు రెండు ఇండివిజువల్స్గా అవుతాయి. నౌ దెర్ ఇస్ నో పేరెంట్. అది డిజపియర్ మీన్స్ అదే కట్ అయ్యి రెండిటిగా విడిపోయింది, రెండు ఇండివిజువల్స్ని ఇచ్చింది. ఓకే, ఎందులో చూస్తాము asexual reproduction అంటే బ్యాక్టీరియా is one of the examples of asexual, that is binary fission. It is most common in bacteria, and in bacteria it is seen during favorable conditions. When the conditions are favorable, bacteria rapidly reproduces through this binary fission and multiplicates. And even amoeba also reproduction through binary fission mode of reproduction is seen. And the fission is of two types, binary fission and multiple fission. In binary fission, the individual will give rise to two. That means it breaks up into two. It divides into two. The individual divides into two individuals, two fragments, and these two fragments will give rise to two new individuals. In multiple fissions, more than two individuals will generate per one set or one stage, one time. Modes of reproduction: simple binary fission, types of fission. This binary fission, as we have seen, that the single individual will divide into two. It may be simple as seen in amoeba, and it may be longitudinal as seen in euglena, longitudinal binary fission. And in case of transverse binary fission is seen in paramecium, and in case of sericium it is an oblique binary fission. This is binary fission types, a picture showing different types of binary fission. It is amoeba, in which the individual is dividing into two. Now the parent individual or the parent cell is dividing. Now there is no parent. New daughter cells, new daughter individuals were produced, and the parent involved in production of these two individuals. So it is an example of irregular binary fission. As you know that amoeba has no shape. It is like wavy, and there is no shape for amoeba. Amoeba ke oka shape antu unda, because it gives out some projections called pseudopodia. Because of that projections, it doesn't have any shape. Particular shape is not there for amoeba. Chudandi, ee amoeba that divided into two, and these are the two new individuals. It is a new one and it is also a new individual. It is a euglena. In this you can see clearly that these two are the new individuals that were produced by the longitudinal division of the parent euglena. These are two new individuals. It is an example for longitudinal binary fission. In paramecium, the binary fission is transverse. You can see here the separation, septum, or the demarcation between these two cells. These two are the two new paramecium individuals, paramecium cells. Paramecium is a unicellular protozoan. It is an example of transverse binary fission. And it is sericium. In sericium, the binary fission is oblique. You can see clearly here. It is oblique binary fission. It is seen in sericium. Sericium is a marine dinoflagellate. It is multiple division or multiple fission. In binary fission, bi means two. The parent will divide into two, give rise to two individuals. In case of multiple fission, the division will produce more than two individuals. The parent cell divide into number of pieces, and each piece will give rise to a new individual. Simultaneously it is seen in Plasmodium. Plasmodium, the protozoan which causes malaria. Malaria is caused, the causative organism of malaria is Plasmodium. There are different species of Plasmodium. Plasmodium falciparum, Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malariae, and Plasmodium ovale. These are different species of malaria, which Plasmodium parasite which cause malaria disease. Amoeba. Amoeba also, not only through binary fission, it also sometimes breaks up, divides into several pieces and give rise to number of individuals. It occurs during unfavorable conditions. Binary fission usually occurs in favorable conditions, whereas multiple fission occurs when there are unfavorable conditions. Okay, this is a parent amoeba. The nucleus is enlarging now. Even the cell also get enlarged, and development of a single depression groove can be seen here. Yes, here it is fully enlarged developed nucleus, and there is a groove which separates the two daughter cells or 2 daughter individuals. Here it is, this is the diagram of binary fission. Okay. It is the example of, it is the picture showing multiple fission. In this multiple fission, example is Plasmodium. In this multiple fission, single Shy-joint, a cell which is undergoing the division, number of daughter nuclei were produced, and each daughter nucleus will some certain amount of cytoplasm surrounds each nucleus, and it develops a small layer around it, and each piece or each fragment here acts as a merozoite, which is a new individual. These are the various individuals of Plasmodium resulting after rupture of the Shy-joint wall. Shy-joint is cell which is undergoing multiple fission. This nucleus undergoes multiplication. After multiplication, it gives rise to number of nuclei, daughter nuclei, and each nucleus surrounded by certain amount of cytoplasm which is surrounded by a particular layer like plasma lemma, and each individual, each nucleus with cytoplasm will act as an individual cell, that is an individual Plasmodium. Each one looks like this, and after rupturing the Shy-joint wall, all the merozygotes, those are the fragments or the new cells of the Plasmodium, will release out after bursting out the Shy-joint wall. And then second type of asexual reproduction is budding. Budding is like division only. A small protuberance comes from the individual and it grows into a new individual, and it will intact, and sometimes it may, after separation of this bud from the mother or the parent acts as a separate individual. I'll show you some examples like Hydra. It shows budding. In this case, there is no identity of the parent. In case of binary fission and multiple fission, there is no identity of parent left. That means individual cell undi kada, cell divide ayin tarvata aa cell paata cell ledu, paata cell divide ayi kotta cells ni ichindi. But in case of this, that is in case of budding, paata individual untune kottadi bud ostundi. So it has its identity. Yeah, this is the picture of Hydra budding. In this, there is an individual, a small protuberance coming out from the basal end of the Hydra. It is growing and giving tentacles. Whenever it gets matured, complete development aipogane, it detaches from the parent like this. It detaches from the parent and acts as an individual, a new individual, a separate individual. It can live on its own. This is an example for budding. Even in Saccharomyces cerevisiae, that is yeast is also a best example of budding. In this, no identity of parent is left in binary fission, whereas here there is an individual and bud comes from that individual. Both the individuals can be seen after completion of the process. But whereas in case of binary fission lo first oka cell undi, aa cell emaindi, aa cell ఇదిగో ఇక్కడ దిస్ ఇస్ ద ఫస్ట్ సెల్, దట్ ఈస్ పేరెంట్ సెల్. పేరెంట్ సెల్లే డివైడ్ అయిపోయి 2 కొత్త సెల్స్ వచ్చాయి. ఇంకా దెర్ ఇస్ నో పేరెంట్ సెల్, దెర్ ఆర్ ఓన్లీ 2 డాటర్ సెల్స్. బట్ ఇన్ కేస్ ఆఫ్ దిస్, ఇక్కడ ఇండివిజువల్ ఉంది కదా, ఈ ఇండివిజువల్ నుంచి వచ్చే కొత్త ఇండివిజువల్ వచ్చిన తర్వాత కూడా పాత ఇండివిజువల్ అంటే పేరెంట్ కనిపిస్తుంది. దెర్ ఈజ్ అన్ ఐడెంటిటీ. ఇది బడ్డింగ్. బడ్డింగ్లో formation of multicellular or unicellular outgrowth called the bud appears on. Sometimes these buds, they produce externally or sometimes internally. Externally produce ayyayi anukondi, they can be seen outer to the body, but bud formed inside the body is called gemule. It is called gemule or statoblast. Statoblast is nothing but the thing that enclosing the bud. Internal buds are produced in the gemules or in statoblast. ఇవి ఎందులో చూస్తామంటే సీలెంట్రేట్స్ అండ్ స్పాంజెస్లో కూడా చూస్తాం. External surface is called the exogenous bud. Example, hydra that I have shown you just now. ఇవి స్పాంజెస్లో ప్రొడ్యూస్ అయ్యే జెమ్యూల్స్. ఇవి ఇంటర్నల్ బడ్స్, జెమ్యూల్స్. దీస్ ఆర్ సీన్ ఇన్ స్పాంజెస్. ఎక్సోజీనస్ బడ్స్ హైడ్రాలో చూసాము. ఎండోజీనస్ బడ్స్ స్పాంజెస్ అండ్ సమ్ సీలెంట్రేట్స్లో కూడా ఎండోజీనస్ బడ్స్ చూస్తాం. ఎక్సోజీనస్ బడ్స్ అంటే బాడీకి బయట మనకి చెయ్యి ఎలా అయితే బయటికి ఎక్స్టర్నల్ అటాచ్మెంట్ ఉందో అలా బడ్ అటాచ్ అవుతుంది. అలా కాకుండా ఇంటర్నల్గా డెవలప్ అయితే దాన్ని జెమ్యూల్ ఆర్ స్టాటోబ్లాస్ట్ అని అన్నాము. దాన్ని మనం స్పాంజెస్లో చూస్తాం. అండ్ బడ్డింగ్ ఈజ్ ఫౌండ్ ఇన్ స్పాంజెస్, ఈవెన్ ఇన్ అనిలిడ్స్ అంటే వానపాములు అవి ఉంటాయి కదా, అనిలిడ్స్, సీలెంట్రేట్స్ లైక్ హైడ్రా అండ్ సెల్లిస్ అండ్ ట్యూనికేట్స్ సాల్పా అమాంగ్ యానిమల్స్లో చూస్తాం. అండ్ అమాంగ్ ఫంగై it is seen in yeast. As I said, in yeast is a best example of budding. It is seen quite common in yeast. Here you can see a single cell giving rise to a small bud externally, and that bud gives out so many buds, like a chain of buds. It is seen in yeast. Example, yeast. Yeast reproduces asexually by budding. This is an internal budding. It is a gemule in sponges where you can see number of buds inside the gemule. And the next asexual mode of reproduction is fragmentation. In fragmentation, the body may break into 2 or more number of pieces, and each fragment or each piece will act as an individual organism. Example, Spirogyra, which is a plant. ఇక్కడ ప్లాంట్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ మనం చెప్పుకోనక్కర్లేదు కాబట్టి యానిమల్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ లైక్ ఫ్లాట్ వర్మ్స్, ఈవెన్ స్టార్ ఫిషెస్ అంటాం కదా, సీ స్టార్స్లో చూస్తాం. సీ ఎనిమోన్స్ అంటే సీలెంట్రేట్స్. అమాంగ్ సీలెంట్రేట్స్లో సీ ఎనిమోన్లో చూస్తాము. ఈ కైనోడర్మేట్స్లో స్టార్ ఫిష్లో చూస్తాము. అండ్ మైక్రోస్టోమియం ఇన్ ఫ్లాట్ వర్మ్స్లో మైక్రోస్టోమియంలో చూస్తాం. దీస్ ఆర్ ద ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ ఆఫ్ ఫ్రాగ్మెంటేషన్. సిస్ట్స్ అండ్ స్పోర్స్ అంటే లైక్ వీ హ్యావ్ సీన్ ఇన్ అసెక్షువల్ స్పోర్స్ లైక్ జూ స్పోర్స్. ఇక్కడ కూడా ఇన్ స్పోర్యులేషన్ విచ్ అకర్స్ ఇన్ మెనీ protozoa and even in bacteria, asexual reproduction occurs by formation of division of nucleus into several daughter nuclei that we have mentioned in case of fission, and daughter nuclei get enclosed. When these are enclosed by small amount of cytoplasm, they form a spore like structure. Especially we have seen binary fission during favorable conditions, but these spores and cysts occur during unfavorable conditions. To thrive during the adverse conditions, They reproduce by formation of cysts and spores. And these spores thrive during adverse unfavorable conditions, and they survive during these unfavorable periods, and whenever the conditions become favorable, they germinate and give rise to the new individuals. This is regarding the asexual reproduction in animals. I hope you have all understood about the process and various types of asexual reproductions in animals. It is very simple that asexual reproduction occurs by binary fission, multiple fission, fragmentation, budding, and finally formation of cysts and spores. Binary fission is quite common in protozoa like amoeba, paramecium, and noctiluca, even seratium, and all these protozoa reproduce by binary fission. It occurs mostly during favorable conditions. Multiple fission is also seen, that is example is plasmodium, and it is during unfavorable conditions it occurs. And then budding is seen, that is external, it may be external or internal budding. In case of external budding, the bud arises outside the body and it separates from the body, and both the individuals, that is the parent and the daughter, remains after reproduction. They remain after reproduction. But in case of asexual, that is fission, in case of fission, the original parent will be lost. It loses its identity. It gives rise to the new individuals and loses its identity during asexual, that is binary and multiple fission. And this is about the asexual reproduction in animals. In the next session, we will see the sexual mode of reproduction in animals. Bye bye.